light of the gospel. The people there were known for their fierce independence, deep-rooted traditions, and hostility toward outsiders. Missionaries who dared to enter were met with cold stares, suspicion, and often violence. The culture was steeped in animism and ancient rituals, and converting to Christianity was seen as treachery against one's tribe. Into this hostile land came a group of Welsh missionaries determined to bring the message of Christ. They knew the risks. Many had heard of missionaries being driven out, beaten, and even killed. Yet they came anyway, believing that even in the darkest places the light of Christ could shine. Among the tribal villages there lived a man named Nokseng. He was a father, a husband, and a respected member of his community. When the missionaries arrived, most ignored them, but Nokseng listened. Something about their words and the way they spoke of Jesus stirred his heart. Over time, he and his family decided to follow Christ. This was no small decision. It meant rejecting the old gods, abandoning sacred traditions, and risking the anger of the village elders. But the change in Nokseng's heart was undeniable. His home became a place of prayer, and his joy was evident to all who saw him. Unfortunately, his new faith would soon cost him everything. The village elders were furious when they heard of Nokseng's conversion. They saw it as a betrayal, not just of the tribe's religion, but of its identity. They summoned him before the entire village. The chief's voice was sharp, his eyes cold as steel. "Renounce your faith in this Jesus, or face death." Nokseng's wife and 2 children were forced to stand beside him. It was clear the threat was real. In the tribe's law, disobedience to the elders was punishable by death. In this tense moment, with everyone's eyes upon him, Nokseng's voice rose, steady and unwavering. "I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back." The crowd murmured in shock. The chief, enraged by Nokseng's defiance, gave a chilling order. The archers stepped forward, their bows drawn. Before his very eyes, Nokseng's 2 children were struck down. They collapsed to the ground, lifeless. A cry of grief tore from his wife's lips. The chief's voice came again, harsher now. "Will you deny your faith? Will you save your wife's life?" In the face of unspeakable loss, Nokseng's heart was breaking, but his resolve remained. Through tears, he declared, "Though none go with me, still I will follow." His words hung in the air, a challenge and a confession. The order was given again. In the same brutal fashion, his wife's life was taken before him. Now Nokseng stood completely alone, his family gone, his heart shattered. But still the chief demanded a denial of Christ. By all human logic, this was the moment to surrender. Yet from deep within, Nokseng found one last breath to speak. "The cross before me, the world behind me, no turning back." It was the ultimate declaration of loyalty to Christ, made at the ultimate cost. The chief could not understand what he had just witnessed. This man had lost everything, yet he refused to renounce Jesus. Something in the chief's heart began to stir. The courage and faith of Nokseng were unlike anything he had ever seen. The man should have been crushed, yet he stood firm. The chief asked himself, what kind of power could inspire such devotion? In the silence after the execution, seeds of doubt about the old ways began to take root in his mind. When the missionaries heard what had happened, they wept. They had seen converts face persecution, but never had they witnessed such a costly, public display of faith. To them, Nokseng was not just a martyr. He was a hero of the faith. They began telling his story to other believers in India and beyond. His words, spoken in the final moments of his life, resonated deeply with all who heard them. These were not just poetic lines, they were forged in the fire of suffering. One missionary, deeply moved by Nokseng's sacrifice, decided that his final words should never be forgotten. Taking the phrases he had spoken, "I have decided to follow Jesus. Though none go with me, the cross before me," he arranged them into a simple song. The melody was drawn from an Indian folk tune, making it instantly familiar to the locals. Soon, the song began to spread from village to village, carrying with it the story of the man who had sung it with his life. In the weeks following the execution, the chief could not forget Nokseng's face. he could not erase those words from his mind. Eventually, he called the missionaries to his home. There, in a stunning turn of events, he confessed his belief in Jesus Christ. The very man who had ordered Nok-Seng's death now stood as a new believer. The power of one man's faith had not only planted a seed, it had brought forth an entire harvest. Once the chief converted, the rest of the village began to follow. The gospel took root in that place, spreading from house to house. The same square where Nok-Seng had been executed became a place of worship. Where once there had been fear and hostility, there was now prayer and song. And among the first songs sung by the new believers was the one born from Nok-Seng's martyrdom. I have decided to follow Jesus. Missionaries carried the song beyond India, across the seas, into churches and revivals around the world. Wherever it was sung, it carried with it the power of its origin story. People who had never heard of Assam were moved to tears, inspired by the courage of a man they had never met. Over time, the song became a staple in Christian worship, its meaning deepened by the blood it cost to create it. Today, in many churches, I have decided to follow Jesus is sung casually, without thought to its history, yet its true power lies in its call to radical, unwavering devotion. Nok-Seng's story asks us, would we stand as he did? Would we keep our faith when the cost is everything we love? This is not just a song, it is a challenge to live for Christ without compromise. Nok-Seng's voice is long gone, but his declaration still echoes, no turning back. His story reminds us that faith is not proven when life is easy, it is proven when life is ripped away. The song he inspired has outlived kingdoms, cultures, and centuries, still calling believers to a decision. The question remains for each of us, have you decided to follow Jesus? And if so, will you ever turn back?
I have decided to follow